Hi, how are you? I hope you're well. Today we're going to be talking about misophonia, what it is, tips for survival, and maybe a bit about my experiences. Also, this is just kind of a random speed paint. It's a redraw of something I made a long time ago. So, misophonia is Greek. It literally means the hatred of sound, and it's also called Select Sound Sensitivity Syndrome, or 4S. It's a neurological condition where certain sounds trigger the fight or flight response. If you don't have it or you want to explain it, here's a metaphor that we use pretty often to describe what it's like. Imagine you're standing in a safari with really tall grass that blocks your vision. You can't see anything and then you hear a lion roar. What happens to you? You start to sweat, shake, panic, your chest gets tight, you become hypervigilant. That plus a lot more, honestly, is what's happening in our brains when we get triggered. Our brains hear that sound, whatever sound, and go into, okay, we either need to GTFO or kill that before it kills us. Sounds dramatic, I know, which it is, and usually there's no danger, it's just a sound, but our brains perceive it as danger. There's a lot more to the disorder. I think I saw something about something like damage to the adrenal glands or fatigue from the adrenal glands, but I'm not super educated on that. But there is so much that is in misophonia that is other than just being quote-unquote annoyed by sounds, which is a huge misconception. There is also Mesokinesia, which is essentially misophonia but with visual triggers, and I know in super rare cases there is a type of misophonia but with smells. I can't remember what that's called, but I know it exists. It's normal to get it when you're preteen, but you can get it at any age. It's unfortunate, but the people who you're closest to are often your worst triggers. Misophonia is not exactly a rare disorder, like a lot of people believe. It's just not well known. But I don't want to hear the whole, oh, everybody's just a little misophonic. No. If you have autism or OCD, I bet that sentence just triggered your fight or flight as well. We're all a little autistic, we're all a little OCD. No. I appreciate trying to relate, but sorry, misophonia is so much more than just getting annoyed by sounds, which is what a lot of people think. Everyone hates the sound of chewing. Well, unless you're one of those weirdos who enjoys watching ASMR chewing mukbangs, but y'all are a different breed. No offense, more power to you, but I could not. But the difference in disliking the sound of chewing and misophonia is the reaction. Being a little annoyed or a lot annoyed even is normal. Feeling like you're gonna die if you listen to that sound any longer and feeling uncomfortable to the point of tears is not. Sorry. It's normal for misophonia, but anyway. And listen, I'm not trying to generalize everything. There is nuance in everything, especially when it comes to disorders. There are a lot of cases of mild misophonia, and I've even talked to people who don't have misophonia who have experienced something close to it, and I'm not trying to invalidate you. It sucks, and it's hard to deal with even mildly. What I'm saying is that there is a difference in getting annoyed by sounds that everyone gets annoyed by to a regular degree, and then there is this reaction of danger, danger in the misophonic's brain. And I think it's important to note because people who don't have it are less likely to take you and this serious disorder that we have seriously if they think that we have the same reaction. So, kind of interesting and unfortunate is there are a lot of similarities between misophonia and PTSD. They're not directly related. If I find any articles with more information on that or any of this that I think will be helpful, I'll link them in the description. But misophonia is very similar to PTSD in the way that specific things will trigger fight or flight, hypervigilance, anxiety, isolation, and it makes sense because I think misophonia can cause PTSD. Being triggered constantly and being triggered when you don't know what's happening can be very traumatic. And B, I read that you are more likely or more vulnerable to getting misophonia if you have experienced trauma. So they do kind of sometimes work together in a sick way, but they're not always connected. You can have misophonia without PTSD. It's also very common for people with misophonia to have other comorbid disorders like depression, anxiety, social anxiety, and OCD. I also believe it's common in autism and ADHD. Recently, I've talked to a lot of people who have developed tics who also have misophonia. I'm sure there's more. It really is just the gift that keeps on giving. So now I'm going to talk about some common trigger sounds really quick for those of you who don't know or don't have it. I highly recommend skipping this part if you do have misophonia, as trigger sounds can be contagious. It's important when talking with other misophonics to make sure that they're okay with hearing about a specific trigger sound because they do spread. So please be careful. Skip to this time if you need. These are common, so Chewing, mouth sounds, sniffing, coughing, breathing, snoring, tapping, clicking, things like that are very common triggers. So those are just common triggers, but triggers are more likely to become triggers if they are repetitive. Any sound can be a trigger, which is unfortunate. Funnily enough, S's are a pretty common trigger sound, which is super fun with a name like Select Sound Sensitivity Syndrome. So here's some information that I think might be helpful for misophonics who might be new to the disorder, diagnosis, or community, or maybe just misophonics in general, I guess. Some things I wish I would have known when I first got it, or first realized I had it. There's a huge community of misophonics. We have a great community on Instagram, a bunch of group chats where we all commiserate, give each other tips, make memes and stuff. It's really great. Really just type in misophonia or misophonia memes into Instagram and pages will come up. There are also Misophonia Conferences. Well, there were before you know what happened, but hopefully those will start up again. I actually think there are some Zoom ones, but so that was a good one, but some of these are pretty heavy. If you are younger or like a teenager and your parents and siblings don't understand, that is unfortunately normal. I mean, it's normal if you're older too, but especially when you're younger. Misophonia is not very well known, and a lot of us with misophonia have had trouble with our families because of the isolation, irritation, panic, and the anxiety, and our families just not understanding. Because like I said earlier, they don't always understand that it's not just you being annoyed at sounds, so they think you're being irrational. They don't realize that this is triggering your fight or flight, right? They think that because they can handle the sounds that you're hearing, you should be able to too. And a lot of times they don't even hear your trigger sounds. A lot of times triggers will just blend in the background for people without misophonia, which it just happens, and you are not crazy for hearing these sounds, okay? You are hearing these sounds, I promise you. I had a lot of trouble feeling like I was crazy when I was younger because no one was hearing the sounds that I was hearing, but they're there. As for your families, if they don't understand, they can come around. It may take time and a lot of effort, but they can come around. They can start to understand. So this next one is a bit controversial in the misophonia community, but I think it's important. Exposure therapy, also called flooding, or I think sometimes even retraining, can be extremely detrimental. And it is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, treatment for misophonia. I can speak from experience. I will put articles in the description, but there have been studies to show that this is not a good or useful treatment for misophonia, and oftentimes it makes it a lot worse because you cannot retrain your brain to just not pay attention to them or to get used to them. Now again, I don't want to generalize. I know everyone is different, and I know people have wanted to try it, and I think there have been maybe a couple people where exposure therapy did help, but that is rare. This is something to discuss with your doctor, and even then, your doctor might not be educated in misophonia. I mean, a doctor recommended to us that I flood because she didn't know what she was talking about. This is something that you need to figure out if it's going to be good for you, but if I can say anything, it would be to do not try it if you are not 1000% on board. This needs to be a decision that you as a misophonic make. You need to be very careful and keep an eye on your symptoms because this can be very detrimental. Speaking from experience, it worsened my misophonia so much more than we expected. Pretty heavy. It's a sensitive topic in the community, but I just feel like I have to say that because please be careful. Okay, this next one isn't as heavy. There is such a thing as sound generators. Depending on the kind that you get, they play white noise or other calming noises in your ears. They kind of look like hearing aids. They are pretty expensive, unfortunately, but they work, if not to calm your reaction down. When I was in high school, I would turn the volume up all the way on mine to try and block out my trigger sounds. So there's that. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about stuff you can do with your phone that's similar to this, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Next is a lot of us misophonics twitch or flinch when we get triggered. It's normal. It offends people sometimes, but you can't help it. It's a reflex. It's okay. It's hard, especially when people don't understand and when they get mad at you, but it's okay. You cannot help it, and trust me when I say us Misophonics understand. Okay, this next one is heavy but very important. If someone triggers you on purpose, that is never okay. If someone threatens you and tries to make you do things with the threat of do this or I'll trigger you, that is never okay. It is borderline abusive behavior, and I highly suggest you distance yourself from someone who would do things like that and refuses to learn. When you tell people that you have misophonia, especially when you are in school, people will often try to trigger you on purpose just to see what happens. It's happened to me quite a bit, and while it sucks, it's mostly them being uneducated, and so they can learn. But if somebody you know who knows about your misophonia, who knows about your triggers you on purpose, or tries to coerce you into doing things by threatening you that they will trigger you, and they do not care, you are 100% valid in distancing yourself from them or cutting them off. I have had this happen to me before. People have tried to make me do things by telling me that if I didn't, they would trigger me, and that was not okay. For some reason, I didn't realize at the time how messed up it was, but it's not okay. You are valid in being angry with that. You are valid in leaving the situation. Remove yourself from that, because it's not okay. I know that was heavy, I'm sorry, but I think it's important. Okay, tips. Earbuds, always. Carry them around with you wherever you go. Have multiple pairs in case one breaks or gets lost. Maybe try to get some noise canceling earbuds or headphones. This can even just ease anxiety because you know that you're prepared and have something that can help in case you get triggered. Maybe get some AirPods if you can afford it, or any kind of wireless earbud, so they'll be inconspicuous. That's really good for like school, or if you don't want to feel rude when you're like out in a restaurant or something. It's good that they're inconspicuous. Music is great for calming down misophonia. Make a playlist of trigger-safe songs. Usually I have found that heavy bass songs can be really helpful. You know when you have been triggered a lot and you can feel it in your ears? I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but that's how I feel after I've been triggered a lot. Loud, heavy bass is really good for getting rid of that feeling. Same with earplugs, but beware. I can't speak for everyone, but this has happened to me whenever I wore earplugs, because I don't wear them anymore because of this. I would always get used to them, so they would stop blocking out my trigger sounds. I would hear my trigger sounds through the earplugs, which like literally is just awful. Why does that happen? My brain is literally the worst. So I guess if you have that problem, I recommend not wearing them 24/7, but I mean, I don't know, maybe other people don't have that problem. So this one might be kind of weird, but a while ago, when I was going to a sleepaway camp, my therapist and I made like this little scrapbook thing of just a bunch of pictures that would calm me down and make me feel better. It's really good for just regular anxiety as well. I wasn't allowed a phone there, which is why we made it into a book, but like having an album in your photos can be pretty helpful. Mine is just mostly dogs. Okay, this one, hear me out, okay? Giving compliments to people who trigger you. I did this a lot in high school. If I was sitting near someone who made a lot of trigger sounds, it was easy for me to be angry at them and resent them even though they weren't doing it on purpose. My brain just recognized those sounds as dangerous, so I felt like that person was dangerous. So I would find something that I liked about them, like their outfit, their shoes, their hair, something, and then start up a conversation with them by giving them a compliment. And if they responded in a positive way, my brain would relax a little, you know, after seeing that they're nice, they're not dangerous or a threat to me. It was really pretty helpful. So when they would trigger me later, it was either easier because I had made a friend or considered them a friend, or that I just had a memory of them being happy and non-threatening to remind them that they're not trying to hurt us. And I just want to say, because I always feel bad recommending this because I feel like it's manipulative, but all of the compliments I give are genuine, you know? I'm not just trying to manipulate people, and I just feel bad. It's not manipulative, I guess. Maybe it is a little, but it's always genuine. It's always genuine, and it helps my brain realize that this person is not dangerous. Okay, so if you thought that one was manipulative, wait till you hear this one. If you're in school or at your job and you don't have accommodations and you need them, or you need something because of your misophonia, when you're describing the disorder to your teacher or counselor or boss, use the big fancy medical terms. I used to say something like, I have a neurological condition called misophonia, which is Greek for the hatred of sound, where specific, soft, repetitive sounds of a certain frequency would trigger the fight or flight reaction in the limbic system, causing adrenal gland fatigue, anxiety, panic, and more. You know, sound real educated on what you're talking about, because by using official medical terms, teachers or counselors or whoever are more likely to believe you. Also, using the metaphor that I used earlier or anything like that to describe what it's like so they understand a bit can be really helpful. It's all about getting them to understand that this is not something you can just bear. This is something you are taking care of yourself. So another one for school is sitting in the back corner of a classroom. That can be helpful. This next one is kind of obvious. Get a therapist, maybe a psychiatrist. Sometimes antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds can help, but a therapist can definitely help you figure out coping skills even if they're not educated in misophonia. The next one is having friends, which I know is hard. I know, trust me. I have a really hard time with making friends and keeping friends, but it can really seriously help you to have a support system of even just a few good friends. A lot of us misophonics tend to isolate because of the sounds, but having friends can be so helpful for your mental health, and it's really important that you take care of yourself and your mental health. Okay, so here are some things that you can use your phone for that can help. And I do have an Apple iPhone. I'm sorry, I don't know about Androids, but for Apple users, I got you. There is a Misophonia app. I do actually believe that the Misophonia app is good for Android. This is where you can document your triggers, and they have a bunch of calming sounds that you can listen to. They have a crisis button where it will play the sound of your choice, and that can be really helpful. They also have podcast episodes, which I can't listen to, but you know, maybe you can. The app is pretty new, so there probably will be more stuff added in the future, but it's good for right now. So this is for, I think, iPhones after the iOS update 15. You can have rain sounds or other white noise play in the background while you're listening to music, or just in general through your earbuds or AirPods. So here's how you get there. Go to settings, go to your control center, and add hearing to your control center. When you are listening to music or something, go to the control center and click the ear icon. Hit background sounds, and the rain is the first to come up, I think, but if you want to change that, just tap on rain and more options will come up. I found that to be pretty helpful when trying to calm down, or even just when listening to music that can sometimes trigger me. This is a great replacement for those sound generators I was talking about, especially if you have wireless earbuds. Okay, so that is all I have for you today. I really hope this is helpful at least a bit, or maybe it made you feel less alone. If you have misophonia, I really recommend looking up some accounts on Instagram and joining a support group chat. Everyone is really nice, and it's great to have such an amazing community. I really hope you're doing okay, and please note that it does get better, okay? The trigger sounds might not ever go away, but you can learn how to deal with them, and you can learn how to keep yourself safe and calm, and it's gonna be okay. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys later.